Hello, everyone. We're going to continue in the book of Revelation. We haven't done it for a little while here, but we want to continue and finish up. Got a couple more chapters to go. And I know that it's these next two chapters, Revelation 17 and 18. I'm just going to say, pre-warn everyone. I don't have any, I'm not against any people. I'm not against people in general or anybody in the church in general. But, Revelation 17 and 18 clearly shows a apostate church system which has the devil behind it. And, we're going to talk about Mystery Babylon now. And it talks about it being drunk off the martyrs. And it talks about the judgment of the Antichrist, and this church was going to persecute the saints for 42 months. And 42 months is 1,260 years of biblical prophetic time. So it takes away a lot of the people's ideas of what it could be. And a lot of people have all kinds of different weird ideas about Mystery Babylon. But when you do it, you have to look at, does it fit every aspect that's mentioned in Revelation 17 and 18? And if it doesn't, one of these criteria is not met, then it cannot be. It has to meet all of the criteria to be Mystery Babylon. And the only proper way of understanding this is to see that Mystery Babylon is a religion and both political institution, but also a religious institution that speaks blasphemies, and it talks about the Antichrist as a title, and it adds up to 666. And so it has to come from a place, and it makes it very clear that it's Rome, because there's only one seven-hilled city that's had influence over the world for so long as Rome. There's no other city in the world that is a seven-hilled city that has had that much influence over the world for such a long period of time, where there is no other city at which more martyrs were killed than Rome and the papacy. There's no other system that had killed more martyrs. Now, if you look at a futuristic interpretation, you might say, well, Islam is killing more martyrs right now, that they're martyring more people right now. But you have to look at the 1260 years portion. And Islam's only been around since 630 AD. So that means that if they were going to do what they're going to do, you add up the math, means they're done. Then they would be done already. And then that's the thing, so it just doesn't fit. There's other things. Mecca is not a seven-hilled city. It is not a city in seven hills. It says that Mystery Babylon sits on seven hills. There's only one city with seven hills or seven mountains that had so much influence over the world, politically and spiritually. That's another part. That's why it can't be New York, brothers and sisters. It can't be New York, because New York's a political, economic powerhouse, but it's never been a religious powerhouse, and it's never killed saints. America has not persecuted saints, so it can't be America or New York. And as we'll see very soon, it cannot be Islam. It can't be. It doesn't work. And then you look at, can it be Jerusalem? Absolutely not. Jesus is going to come back and rule and reign in Jerusalem. It's the city of peace. There's no way that it's Jerusalem. The Jews did persecute the saints, but later on, the Jews are far more persecuted, and after 336 AD, it turned on them. The Roman Empire turned on them, and they started being far more against them than the Christians. At first, the Christians were persecuted heavily for the first 3 centuries, but then the Jews were persecuted heavily after, and so that's why it doesn't work. Saying that the Jews are and
Here's another important point that everyone has to realize. We're talking about Mystery Babylon. it talks about the beast with 10 horns. Now, these 10 horns are kings and kingdoms that are carrying out the orders and the things that come from the beast. So it cannot be Islam. It cannot be America, because it has to have 10 kings, 10 kingdoms doing the bidding of to be the Antichrist. Islam never had 10 kings working with them. America never had 10 kings. There was no America at this point. So we know that it has to be a city with 7 hills, mountains. It has to have influence, spiritually and politically, for a very long time. So no other place can fit the bill. So it's like adding fingers to the gloves until it fits. So now we're going to read on about other aspects of it. And the other one is the blasphemies, as he said, naming your name as Christ, a replacement of Christ, vicar of Christ. The only group or system of religion, both political and spiritual, that claims to be a replacement of Christ is the papacy. That's another finger on that glove.
So we'll see as we read Revelation 17 and 18 how well it fits. And so it's undeniable. And before we start reading these scriptures, I have to say that the closest interpretation and the closest to where I sit is what the reformists and the people who are revivalists in the time of the Reformation, they believed exactly the interpretation that I'm speaking to right now. They all came with the conclusion that Mystery Babylon was Rome, it was the papacy. Okay? So they were being martyred at that very time. They were dealing with these things, and it was very real in their lives. So they clearly could see what the mark of the beast was all about. They understood what these scriptures are talking about, because they realized they were living it. They were living this in this time of the book of Revelation. They understood because they were living in it. I think the reason why the Counter-Reformation had so much success is because we're far removed from it. We weren't living in that time. So we clearly we don't see or understand why it fits so well. But back then they did. And so that's the interpretation that I hold. These people died for it. They were persecuted, died, and burnt at the stake for saying the same things that I say right now. And the only reason why they can't do it is because, and we will read in the book of Revelation, that their power was taken away. In the vials, their power was taken away by Napoleon. And so we'll see that their full glory, full power was taken away. And it talks about that in book of Revelation. So now let's get to what the word says. Let's go read. Now it says here that there came once 7 angels, which had 7 vials, and taught with me, saying unto them, come hither, I will show you the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Okay, here's the thing. So the whore sits on many waters. In other words, what group of religion, other than maybe Islam, but Islam is still not as spread as forth as much as the papacy has. There's Catholics in practically every nation in the entire world. So it's talking about waters as being peoples, nations. Okay, that's what it's talking about there. And it says, now with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Now, it's talking about mother of harlots, Mystery Babylon, mother of harlots. We're not talking about actual prostitution, but it's prostitution spiritually. What is spiritual prostitution? Well, it's idolatry, where you're taking other gods and you're mixing in pagan stuff with the things of God and the word of God. And that's exactly what the church was doing. And the papacy was the worst one for doing that. But it started with Rome. Okay, then they brought this forward, and then it continued on to the papacy. But all the sources of all this idolatry can be traced back to ancient Babylon. So, and we can clearly see that. And how it continued from ancient Babylon to the papacy was through all the empires that Daniel was speaking about in the book of Daniel. And the Revelation continues to make that reference and to make it clear why this is the case. We'll see that in a minute. So we'll continue reading. So he carried away the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Okay, so we're talking about the 10 horns being 10 kingdoms. And 7 heads, okay, similar thing, like kings, 7 kings, 10 kingdoms. They're nations that were on the side of the beast. It said that it was scarlet. Scarlet is one of the main colors of the papacy. Scarlet was a main color of Rome. It's clear, okay, how this is. Scarlet is not the main color for Israel in Judah. It is not the main color for Islam. Islam is the color is not red. Okay, it's not. And then you look at other, America. Is America's colors red? No, it's not. It's not really red. I mean, they have some red, but there's a reason for that. The reason why the red, there's a little bit of red. But I'm talking about full red coloring. And that shows the relationship with Rome. And then now we also talks about the dragon, the red dragon. Red is also a color of sin. Okay? And white is, when it talks about Christ, it's talking about white, the lamb. That signifies purity. Okay? And now, sinless. So that's an important reference to make here. And scarlet is what all the cardinals wear. And in fact, the seat at which the Pope sits is actually it's full of red, and it's overlain with gold. So that's another important point to make. And so it says scarlet. That's why this is an important detail that we cannot ignore. So it's one of those fingers on the glove that has to fit. And it says that where the woman was arrayed with purple and scarlet color. And as you can see, the popes and the priests, when they do a thing called the High Mass, which is pagan idolatrous practice, and they mix in with the Levitical, blood sacrifice. They mix that all in, and then there's pagan idolatry mixed in with that, with the Levitical sacrifice, which is again against everything that's biblical. Jesus is the high priest, and it said that he died on the cross, and his blood paid the price for all our sins. So you don't have to make another sacrifice. So every time that mass is done, it's a profane sacrifice. But when they do that, as you notice, the popes and these high priests, they wear purple and scarlet. That's a fact. And who else wears purple and scarlet? Imams, Islam imams do not wear purple and scarlet. They do not. Jews do not wear, the rabbis they do not wear purple and scarlet, brothers and sisters. They do not. So that's why these things cannot fit. And so we're talking about a religious institution that wearing purple and scarlet, and only the papacy fits that bill. So again, this is why we can clearly see that this is the only real interpretation that really makes sense and can be shown that it fits every one of these points that are made here in Revelation chapter 17. That's why the reformists and revivalists and our past martyrs that were for Christ, they believe this and they died for this because they saw this as being clear. And so we continue on. And it says that she had precious stones, gold, and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of the abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Again, so it's talking about the high mass being a idolatrous practice, and they have a cup. They have a golden cup. They hold the pope or the high priest the main priest will hold this gold cup, and it's filled with wine, and they drink from it. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. So I don't know if it can describe a high mass as they have in the Catholic Church with a pope any better than that. I don't know how you can. I don't know how you can. So so we're going to continue reading on. I don't know how any other group that fits these descriptions so well. And it says here, upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. The mother of all these things. Now, is Islam the mother of all idolatry? I mean, they claim to be a monotheistic religion, so they're not as idolatrous as what this religious institution is. Okay, that's an important point. And Islam has never ever said they're the mother. Jerusalem's never said, yes, we're the mother, but the Church of Rome has called themselves the mother. And so this is a really important identity that they call themselves. They're the mother church. And this is, this kind of, and then they use with Mary as well. Like, I mean, they worship Mary as the Queen of Heaven. And they push up Mary a way higher level than what the Bible would have to say. Yes, she was the mother of Jesus, but I mean, proper biblical theology does not take Mary and put her up to the Queen of Heaven, where you pray to her and ask her and use her as a mediator between, she's an extra mediator now. So this is idolatry. Again, this is the idolatry we're talking about. It's huge and it's a major problem. And this is another part of the identity of Mystery Babylon being the papacy or papal Rome. Now we continue. It says, I saw a woman drunken with the blood of the saints, with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell you the mystery of Babylon, the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which have 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. Okay, so that's very interesting wording here. And again, it's talking about the martyrs, chunk off the martyrs, the martyrs for Jesus Christ. And you could you can make an argument for Islam here, but it doesn't fit the rest of it. And it hadn't been persecuting, killing the saints as long as the papacy had. So that's why it doesn't really fit. Of course, it has to fit with the other things, the purple and the scarlet, the blasphemies, being the mother, that mother reference. Islam is against all that. They're to say that the God is one and all that.
And now I'm going to read verse 9 here. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. So it means that this place must have 7 mountains. Must. Otherwise it doesn't work. So any place that does not have these 7 mountains cannot be the place that this entire chapter speaks of. This is making a very clear point. It keeps telling us the 10 horns, the 7 heads are 7 mountains. So, again, this is what makes it clear. It has to be a city with 7 mountains. That's Rome.
Okay, now I'll go to verse 10. Let's clarify the 7 kings. This is important, brothers and sisters. Really important. So this is how we know it's Rome. It has to be Rome, and there's no question. Because the 7 kings are these great empires that started. So we had Assyria, Egypt, Babylon, Greece, Persia, and then you get Rome. Rome is number 5. And then it talks about that one. It uses the 6, which is, again, papacy, and then it talks about another group. And I believe that last one is talking about the European Union, the Holy Roman Empire, the thing that would follow after the papacy lost its power. So that's what it's talking about. These 7 kings are empires. And so that's an important point to make, because it says there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen. Yes, so Rome has fallen, so that's 5. And then 1 is, papacy. And then there's 1 yet to come. So they're talking about that there's another great empire yet to come. And so you can, that one is kind of a little bit more open to interpretation, but it isn't, because it has to be in Europe, because, these other ones, it clearly shows that the progression of this is Rome, something from Rome, which arose out of Rome.
That one that was yet to come has come.
Correct.
Because we're talking about what was written in the time of John. There was a Roman Empire in the time of John. But the papacy and the Holy Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire had not existed yet.
Correct.
So that's why I was able to mention the 5 kings that will have fallen. Because they were in existence in the time of John. They had come and been in existence.
So these had come and gone. So now we have explained that. But now the 10 horns talks about 10 kingdoms that would be with the support the beast. And these 10 kingdoms are in Europe. So we can clearly see that. And that's why there's no other group that fits this 10 kingdoms part. There's no other group. And they're if you want to talk about a futuristic government, it doesn't work. If it's a futuristic government, it has to follow the purple, the scarlet, the mother. It had to kill the saints for a long period of time. It had to be a city with 7 hills. It has to come from a place of 7 hills. So that's why this futuristic interpretation is silly. It doesn't work, brothers and sisters. It doesn't work. And so we got to continue on. Let's continue on here. It says the 10 kings that you saw are 10 kings. The 10 horns, I should say, are 10 kings. So you can't interpret it any other way. We're talking kingdoms, kings. How many kingdoms are there nowadays? There's not very many, even many monarchies right now. So obviously this has to been already done. This obviously had already happened already.
So then Christ has been here a while. Because we're talking about 10 kings. Okay? It said 7 heads or 7 mountains. There is no other way to interpret this.
And we're going to have to continue to do this quickly, the rest of it. And they shall make war with the Lamb. Yeah, they have to make war with the Lamb. So in other words, they're going to make war with the real church. And they said it shall overcome them. So this is where they had the Inquisition. So it looked like they were overcoming. And it says, unto me the waters which thou sawest, which are peoples. Remember? No, it's clearly explained what the waters are talking about. And it says, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, they shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh. For God hath put their hearts to fulfill his will, to agree, and their kingdom, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be filled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And it did. And it continued to do so in the form of the Holy Roman Empire. And they had those 10 kingdoms upon it and with them. And they made war with the rest of we're talking about all the wars against the Christ true church. Wars that happened. And so that clearly shows the wars of the time of the Reformation and progressive years up to Napoleon. And then we're going to it's going to go into all that. But this is why it has to fit this. That's why it fits it so well. So God bless you, everyone. I wanted to get into Revelation 18, but everyone take care. God bless.
Take care. God bless.